Families cross borders, risk it all, just to find safety in America. But what happens when the very people sworn to protect them turn into the predators? This is the tragic story of Susana Morales, a 16-year-old Latina girl who vanished on her way home, only to be betrayed by the badge. For generations, families from Mexico, Central America, and the Caribbean have made dangerous journeys to the United States. They come chasing peace, opportunity, and safety, fleeing poverty, violence, and oppression back home. But here's the chilling truth: for too many immigrant families, that dream shatters the moment they arrive. Instead of safety, they face discrimination, neglect, and sometimes, violence from the very system meant to protect them. Susana Morales was just 16 years old. A bright, loving daughter and sister, full of dreams like any teenager her age. She loved her family. She loved her community. And she deserved the kind of life her parents came to America for. But Susana's story would take a dark turn on a warm summer evening in Gwinnett County, Georgia. On July 26, 2022, Susana was walking home. It should have been a simple, everyday journey. But somewhere along that path, she vanished. Her family immediately panicked. This wasn't like Susana. She wasn't the type to run away. She wasn't reckless. Something was wrong. But when they went to the police, desperate for help, they were told a story they didn't believe. Instead of launching an urgent search, Gwinnett County Police brushed it off. They said Susana had probably just run away. A runaway? That's not what her family believed. They pleaded, begged, please, she wouldn't do this. But the police didn't listen. And every hour wasted was another hour Susana was out there, in danger. What the Morales family didn't know was that their worst nightmare was already unfolding. For months, the Morales family searched. They organized vigils. They put up posters. They prayed every night for her safe return. But deep down, a heavy fear grew stronger, that Susana wasn't coming back. And on February 6, 2023, their fear turned into heartbreaking reality. In the woods of an Atlanta suburb, human remains were discovered. It was Susana. Her family's world collapsed. A beautiful young life, gone. But the story doesn't end here. Because the most shocking twist was yet to come. When investigators finally named their suspect, the Morales family and the entire community were stunned. It wasn't a stranger. It wasn't some faceless predator lurking in the night. It was a cop. 22-year-old Officer Miles Bryant, a young Georgia police officer who wore the badge of law and order, is accused of kidnapping and murdering Susana Morales. Think about that for a second. The man sworn to protect and serve, the one families like Susana's should have been able to trust, was the very monster they feared. Bryant wasn't just charged with murder. He faced a list of crimes that painted a terrifying picture: felony murder, kidnapping, first-degree burglary, filing a false police report, and concealing the death of another. And here's the part that makes your stomach turn: this wasn't the first time Bryant's behavior raised red flags. Bryant had a disturbing history. Reports of stalking, harassment, acting inappropriately toward women and girls. The warning signs were there, but they were ignored. And that silence, that failure to take action, may have cost Susana her life. Susana's sister, Jasmine, described the moment she found out a police officer was behind it. She said, "I was shocked. I had to process it for a second. I was just like, what?" That explains why it took so long for us to have an answer. It's a police officer. I'm guessing they know how to cover their tracks. Can you imagine that? The people you go to for help were the very ones covering for one of their own. And this wasn't just the Morales family's heartbreak. The community felt betrayed too. If a police officer could get away with this, if the police department could dismiss a desperate family's cries for help, what does that mean for the rest of us? People started asking hard questions, about accountability, about corruption, and about who the system really protects. And here's something that's deeply disturbing. Susana wasn't the only young Latina girl to go missing in the area. In fact, around the same time, 2 other Latina teens were found dead in Gwinnett County. 3 young lives, gone in just 1 month. Coincidence? Or is there something more systemic going on here? Let's not forget, Susana's family begged for help. They told police she wasn't a runaway. They told them something was wrong. But what did police do? They brushed it off. And that delay, those crucial hours and days, may have been the difference between life and death. This isn't just a story about one bad cop. It's about an entire system that too often fails Black and brown families. In 2022 alone, more than 1,100 people were killed by law enforcement officers in the United States, the most in at least a decade. And between 2005 and 2013, police officers were charged with rape over 400 times. That's just the ones we know about. Experts believe the true number is far, far higher. Yet, time and time again, officers accused of sexual abuse and harassment don't just keep their jobs, some even get promoted. The Morales family refused to stay silent. They launched the Justice for Susana petition. They demanded a fair investigation. They demanded that Miles Bryant be held accountable to the full extent of the law. And most importantly, they demanded that the process for missing minors be changed, so that no other family has to go through what they went through. When news broke that a police officer was charged with Susana's death, the community's grief turned into outrage. This wasn't just about one family anymore. This was about a pattern, a system that ignored Black and Latina girls when they went missing, a system that protected police officers even when they were predators. And so the people took to the streets. They marched, they chanted, and they demanded justice for Susana. At vigils and rallies, voices rose in unison. Activist Cheyenne said, "It's not just Gwinnett County. In Washington, D.C., there are still dozens of unsolved cases of missing Black and brown girls under the age of 21. Families like Susana's come to America for peace and safety, but America still can't give it to them." That statement hit hard. Because Susana's case was not an isolated tragedy. It was part of a national crisis. Here's something that will make your blood boil: many missing Latina girls aren't even counted in official statistics. Instead, they're lumped in with white women, making it harder to track the scale of the problem. That means thousands of families are left invisible. And when you're invisible, your case doesn't get the same headlines. It doesn't get the same urgency. And sometimes, it doesn't get solved. To fight back against this silence, Susana's family launched the Justice for Susana petition. They demanded a transparent investigation into her death. That Miles Bryant faced the full weight of the law. And that the so-called 48-hour rule, which police used as an excuse not to file Susana's missing report, be re-evaluated. They wanted real change. They wanted accountability. And the community rallied behind them. But as Susana's case grabbed headlines, another controversy was exploding in Atlanta. A brand new $90 million police and fire training center, dubbed Cop City by activists, was being built right near where Susana lived. To make it happen, authorities planned to bulldoze huge parts of Atlanta's South River forest and displace Black communities nearby. For many activists, this was the final straw. How could they build a massive training ground for police, when trust in those same police was at an all-time low? Hundreds of Black, Latino, and Indigenous activists took to the streets. Their chants echoed across Atlanta: "Stop Cop City," and "Justice for Susana." These weren't just chants of anger. They were cries for survival. Because Susana's death wasn't just a tragedy, it was a warning. A symbol of how deeply broken the system had become. In fact, during protests against Cop City, tragedy struck again. Activist Manuel Páez Terán, known as Tortuguita, was killed by police while defending the forest. They were shot multiple times, a haunting reminder that standing up to the system can be deadly. For many in Atlanta, Susana Morales and Tortuguita became connected symbols. Both lives stolen, both families demanding justice, and both stories exposing the brutal truth about police violence. According to the 2022 Police Violence Report, most unarmed people killed by police were people of color. And Latinos, like Susana, are killed at nearly double the rate of white Americans. So when Susana's family says the system failed her, they're not exaggerating. They're pointing to numbers, to history, and to a reality that too many black and brown families already know. At a press conference, Jasmine Morales spoke for her sister. Through tears, she said, "No amount of money, no amount of justice can bring her back to us. But what we can do is to try and make sure this doesn't happen to anybody else again. That's why we are here." Those words echoed far beyond Gwinnett County. They became a rallying cry, not just for Susana, but for every family fighting for answers. Today, Miles Bryant sits in the Gwinnett County Detention Center without bond. He's charged with felony murder, kidnapping, and concealing a death. But here's the truth, a trial won't bring Susana back. And for her family, real justice is more than just one guilty verdict. It's about a system that finally listens. A system that finally protects. A system that finally values the lives of young Black and Latina women. Because let's be honest. When the people meant to protect us are the ones we need protection from, where do families like Susana's turn? Trust has been shattered. And Susana's story isn't just a tragedy. It's a symbol of everything broken between marginalized communities and law enforcement. In 2022, at least 1,176 people were killed by police in the United States, the highest number in a decade. And according to reports, Latinos are killed at nearly double the rate of white Americans. Between 2005 and 2013, officers were charged with rape more than 400 times. And experts say that number is just the tip of the iceberg. These numbers prove what families like the Moraleses already know: the system isn't just broken. It was built this way. That's why the Justice for Susana petition is so powerful. It's not just a demand for one case. It's a demand for change. They want an end to excuses like the 48-hour rule that delays missing persons reports. They want transparency in every investigation. And they want families to be heard, no matter their race, no matter their background. Susana Morales didn't get the chance to live her dreams. She was robbed of her future by someone who was supposed to protect her. But her story, her name, her fight for justice, has sparked something bigger. Susana's legacy is now a call for accountability. A call for reform. A call for every missing child to be taken seriously, no matter who they are. And here's where you come in. Because stories like Susana's don't always get the media attention they deserve. Too often, cases of missing Latina and Black girls are overlooked, forgotten, or ignored. But by sharing her story, by demanding justice, by refusing to let her name fade away, we make sure her death wasn't in vain. Susana Morales was only 16 years old. Her life mattered. Her voice mattered. And her story must never be forgotten. As her sister Jasmine said, "No amount of money, no amount of justice can bring her back to us. But what we can do is to try and make sure this doesn't happen to anybody else again." Justice for Susana Morales. Justice for every family still waiting for answers. If you believe Susana deserves justice, share this video right now. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because we'll keep bringing you the stories that need to be heard. And together, we can make sure Susana's name lives on.